Finding the Voices talk show by Monica Iguodam.
Huge fan of Finding the Voice.
You're doing a great job for Manipur.
Manipur bu prithivida masatak pa
good positive voices and make those voices more visible.
Wanted our voice to reach in all the corners of the world.
Interesting people.
Been finding
voices on
People from our own place.
Interest of the Gahina, interest of
share positive stories and inspiring stories and bring out the good stories of Manipur.
Finding the Voices.
Many of the people that came to the commission were poor people. Since no fees is required to approach the commission, no lawyers are required either, and you can submit your petition in any language of your choice. I saw a Muslim lady. She used to keep coming and kept pondering. Then finally I called her in. I said, "What's your problem?" And she says, "Sir, my husband has been taken into custody by the Assam Rifles yesterday, day before yesterday, and we are still not able to trace him." So I said, "Come sit down." Then I had a fellow member who was a former member of the High Court, judge of the High Court. So I asked him, "Sir, just tell me something, sir. What is it? You've been in the High Court." "Yes, I've been in the High Court." "Now tell me, if you have to pass a very important judgment, and if your stenographer or your typist is sick, are there any rules in the statute book that prohibits you as a judge from typing out your own order?" So no.
Okay.
I said, "Thank you, sir." Then I took out my portable typewriter to the commission, and it used to take about 3 hours for a normal stenographer of Manipur standard to bring out, to print out, to put into type print a page of write-up. It would just take me 20 minutes. It would come straight from the brain to the machine and out. Okay. So I typed out her complaint and just signed it. Okay. And signed. And then we asked the police. Now this is the difference between the Manipur State Human Rights Commission and the Punjab Human Rights Commission and the J&K Human Rights Commission.
Okay.
The army is there essentially to help the civil authorities. Okay. The civil authority consists of the police, and the police is here in the land to ensure that no date or rape takes place. So when a person gets arrested or his whereabouts is not known, and the father or the mother fears that he might be dead, then we ask the police to inquire from the army the whereabouts of this person. Either they say, "No, we have been arrested with them," or without replying, they will just hand over the person to the police. Okay. Then the police would come back to us and that he has been handed over to us. Okay. Now in this case, the police did a very good police job. You see, there's the two different aspects of law and order. One is you have a shootout, you fire back and all that. The other one is a police investigative job, you see. Police supposed to investigate. They took into account the witnesses who had seen that man being taken inside the Assam Rifles camp and one. So he had solid evidence on this.
Okay.
Then we packed it up and sent it to the National Human Rights Commission.
Okay.
Then the army told the police that this man was not arrested by them. Okay. Now this is on record saying that no, this man was not arrested by us. Then when the National Human Rights Commission asked them again, their reply was that he was shot in an encounter in a place far away from here.
But you guys had the evidence of entering the Assam.
And then the National Human Rights Commission for the first time ruled that the onus of proving that the person is not with them lies with them himself. The Assam says he's not with us. The onus to prove it is with you. But till such time you prove it, then it has to be held that you have taken him into your custody. So the wife was awarded rupees 3 lakhs by the National Human Rights Commission. And this is the first time. And the last time a man arrested by the army disappears. Before that, a lot of these disappearances used to take place in Manipur. The army would come, pick up a guy, bump him off, throw him out somewhere. That's kind of thing used to happen.
So in that case, like the body was found.
Body was not found.
Oh.
The body, they said, he was killed in an encounter.
Yeah.
His body was kept in the police station and was cremated.
Oh.
A photograph was taken. Photograph was given to was shown to the wife, and wife said, "No, this is not my husband."
Oh.
Hmm?
So the body was not found at
Body
all.
was not found.
And this is just one of the stories.
This is one of the stories.
And
But
there
this
are
is the
many.
last time. This is how we were able to check forced disappearance by the army, okay, of citizens. All right. And then the matter went to the High Court. High Court asked the CBI to inquire. Then it was found out that he was shot dead by 17 Assam Rifles unit, acting beyond his jurisdiction. 2 captains were involved. Now they are colonels. One police officer who was an inspector now and DSP was involved, and 4 other people. And this guy who went charged. Now the fact that they have not been brought to trial is because of the Armed Forces Special Powers Act provides immunity from such crimes being committed, because it said unless the government of India gives prosecution permission, they can never be prosecuted. Okay, so that is on the umbrella under which they kind of
they're protected.
They're
for
protected.
all
That's
this.
how they, how they were able to escape the hatch. Okay. Then over time,
So for all these cases, like compensations are
compensations are given, but in Manipur, if you are a state government, you're dealing with the state government. If you have both your legs and hands cut off, its term is injury. And you are only given rupees 10,000.
My God.
If you are shot dead, you are given 10. If you are dead, then you are given rupees 1 lakh, 100,000. Say. But if both your legs and both your hands are cut off,
10,000.
10,000. Okay. So that is the kind of thing. But the national commission is different. So the army, the government of India paid rupees 3 lakhs to the family.
Okay.
But the perpetrators of the crime are still left scot-free.
It's pending, yeah.
Okay. Then I'll tell you how Sharmila kept on being survived for 15 years. Okay. That was thanks to me, let me tell you very frankly. Not many people know how Sharmila survived for 15 years. Because on the 4th day of her fasting and being taken into custody in hospital, the hospital authorities were scared to force feed her or do anything. Because it was a very touchy, sensitive issue. No?
Right.
So in the evening, I got a call from the medical superintendent of the then Jawaharlal Nehru Hospital, Jain Hospital. He said, "Sir, can I come and see you tomorrow?" And he's from my Lekai. I said, "Tamo, please come tomorrow in the morning. Let's have tea together." So he came and we're having tea, and he said, I call him Tamo and he called me sir, and he said, "Sir, I can keep Sharmila alive till maybe tomorrow or day after." Tomorrow, he said. But day after tomorrow, she is going to die. I'm talking about the year 2000, November, okay? This must be around November 8 or 9 or 10th, okay? I forget the date. Then I looked at the doctor and I said, "Doctor, isn't it your primary duty to keep people alive who are admitted to under your care? Whether a person meets with an accident or whether he is sick, terminally ill, or requires surgery, or requires medication, a person tries to commit suicide, poison himself, isn't it your primary duty to keep that person alive?" Then he looked up at me and said, "Then, sir, can I force feed her?" He said, "Yes, please, by all means. But since she doesn't want to eat, you have a thing called nasal feeding. So nasal feed her, not through the mouth." And I said, "Don't do it alone." I said, "Don't let your subordinates do it alone. You yourself be present. A lady physician should be present. the concerned physician will be present. The matron of the nursing staff should also be present. I want all these people to be present while you force feed her through the nose. Okay. So this guy smiled and I told her, Tamo, if Sharmila dies tomorrow, the day after tomorrow she dies, the whole of state of Manipur is going to burn and yours will be the first house will be burnt. He looked up at me and smiled and said, thank you, sir. Went back and Sharmila began her nose feeding. And the rest is world history now. It's part of international history. But very few people know about this.
Because you seeded that idea that you could do something.
And I said, keep her alive, Then I met her while she was in the hospital. I said, Sharmila, you remember me? Because as an intern, she had come to the commission along with Bablu. I said, Sharmila, do you still remember me? Yes, I remember you. I said, Sharmila, don't die for Manipur. Stay alive for Manipur. That's what I said. Stay alive for Manipur. Don't die for Manipur. Okay. I was referring to General Patton's speech. He says, no so-and-so has ever died for his country, has ever won a war by dying for his country, is by letting the poor dumb old so-and-sos of the other country die for his country. So I said, you want to serve Manipur, you live for then you live for Manipur, don't die for Manipur. This is the words I gave her, okay?
Yeah, that can be a quote not only for Sharmila, but for many people who are fighting and...
Okay. And then, now, this is another very interesting humorous story which I will tell you. Sharmila went on a strike because 10 persons were killed
in Malom.
In Malom, okay? Now, for the police to transport these 10 bodies, you require 10 coffins. The government had already claimed curfew over the state. There was no way you could procure a coffin in normal circumstances. So, and there is a gentleman who sells coffin. He's a music teacher, okay? He teaches music in a Manipur Government Music College, tabla. And in his spare time runs a grocery shop where he sells coffin also. With a service of coffin available here. It's next to the hospital, you see. So the police went procured 10 coffins from him on the spot and said, no, we'll pay you tomorrow, day after tomorrow. Hang on, there's a curfew in town. Don't worry, we'll pay. After 1 week, the money was not paid. After 2 weeks, it was not paid. So he went to the OC. OC said, no, OC has been transferred. You go and meet the SP. SP said, no, this is not my jurisdiction, it happened in Mal. So he was being shunted around. So he came to me, I was sweeping my courtyard. He came to me and says, can I meet Sir Ramyam Lava? You were talking to him now, I said. What's your problem, sir? He said, Tada, elder brother, what's your problem? He said, sir, they have not repaid money for my coffin procured for the Malom killing. Then I looked at him willingly and said, do you want me to run after them to get your coffin money back? No, I thought there's no way I could complain. I said, please, I was just joking. And then I gave him tea, then I said, okay, tell me a story. So I typed out his petition. Then I said, Sanya. He said, you come to the office. Office is not very far from my house. It's about 2 kilometers down. Okay. Come there at 1. Then again I typed out the order. I said, now you sign here. I said, what is this? He said, this is the order which I am passing on based on the petition which you had submitted to me in the morning in the house. Okay. Right. And I said, go home and sleep. Relax. Something will happen tomorrow or the after tomorrow. Don't worry. Then in the evening I called my best friend and I said, look, this is big dough for you guys. State Human Rights Commission issues notice to the Director General of Police of a non-payment of 10 coffins procured for the Malom massacre, of which Sharmila, you know how to lengthen the story. That I did. Next morning, all the newspapers splashed it on the front page. And the same guy came to me at around 8 o'clock. He says, sir, when I woke up in this morning, I found many policemen outside standing on my courtyard. I said, what do they want? They want to arrest you for filing a case against them? No, they came with the money. He said, take the money, take the money. I didn't know whether to take the money without your permission or not. I said, listen, you are staying in a state where people are not getting salary. So while they can give it, take it. Take it. I said, take it. So he said, thank you, sir. I forgot about the story. Then it was related by some of his colleagues to some of my other colleagues in the dance academy because the music dance fraternity was there. And so that's how instant justice.
Even in the midst of all this conflict and pains, all this happens.
Yeah.
But it's a business for the coffin maker. And,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
have to do that.
But it is the manner in which I was able to remit, because the notice to the DC had not been sent. It has just come on the newspapers. Because if I pass an order today, it will take 2 days for my office staff to send the.
So it's immediate effect.
It's immediate effect. I use the media as a force multiplier. You see.
No, that's really cool to
It's
know
a
about
force multiplier, and by that account, I was able to turn the State Human Rights Commission into a poor man's court.
Right.
Okay.
So they were able to come and file their issues.
Issues and and
get immediate
or at least being heard.
Right.
Basically, what happens is it's called testimonial therapy in human rights training. Suppose you have been so physically abused by the army or police or by the local gunda, the trauma keeps growing inside you as long as you keep silent. No?
So
As long
sharing
as once you share it, it lightens the burden inside you. It's called testimonial therapy. So all that I was doing, I was telling them, listen, I might not be able to send the perpetrator of the crime to jail behind bars, but
your issues will be heard.
your issues will be heard by the public at large, and that man will be identified as a human rights violator. Okay,
And that's very powerful.
and that's very powerful. I'm going to use social sanction against this person through the media, for which I have the authority also to do it. Okay,
No, that's so amazing.
and then I don't require complaints from people. All I require was to have newspaper clippings, and once the newspaper reports comes out, I can take up suo motu cases. Okay, suo motu cases is you take up on your own, which I did for a mentally deficient girl. She was raped by the local gunda in a village called I forget the name of the village. Okay, it's near Khongzom. Okay, that village, she was raped. She's mentally unstable,
Okay.
and she was raped by the local gunda. I saw that in the newspaper. I filed. He registered a suo motu case. Asked the police to give me a report. The police came and arrested this man. Next morning, the Marapais came to my house.
Okay.
I said, sir, a very strange thing happened yesterday at our village. What happened? The police came for the first time and arrested a bad man.
Oh, they didn't know that all this publication was happening and all this news.
Then I said, sir, we don't know who to ask. How come he got to be arrested? Because we never went to the police. And I said, I had got him arrested. But so we never approached you also. That is not required, I said.
Because you got to know.
I got to know it through the newspaper. Okay. So that's how I was able to turn the commission into a poor man's court.
Monica, finding the voice.
Finding the voices.
Finding the voice.
I could see my father. Who came to meet my headmaster because he was unable to pay the fee. I'm sorry.
Because we need such story for people to have faith in the government, in the system, that yes, it's working.
Let's bring peace in our home state, Manipur.
Who have got the job without bribery. They'll do justice to their job, and they will help raise the standard of Manipur.
Me ma chen kre ha do ai adu paraga tingau gi
So when the commission first began, we were criticized by saying that you are a toothless tiger. I said, but a toothless tiger still has claws. No, I said, if you know how to use your claws, you don't have to use a tooth. Okay. Then I said, I'm going to use the commission, the restricted or limited powers given to it, to the maximum possible manner, drive it to the hilt.
And you did that.
And I did that. And I did that. And matter of fact, I was nominated to be a member of the National Human Rights Commission. 14 MPs of the Northeastern region, 3 chief ministers, 1 Padma Vibhushan winner of India, Padma Vibhushan, Sonal Mansingh. A lot of people had nominated me for the inclusion as a member of the National Human Rights Commission. But unfortunately, politics came in, and a person who was director of CBI looking into the Ram Mandir episode at Ayodhya, who got Advani, then Home Minister, off the hook, was put in, elected as a member of the commission. Okay. But that's okay, that I understand. Now, more drastically, what happened in Manipur was after commission tenure got over in 2003, for 2 years it lay in government, and the High Court had to move a thing and just asked the government to start a commission again. So 2005 they formed a commission. Now the commission had 5 members. Okay, the chairperson, who has to be a retired Chief Justice of the High Court, 1 member who has or is still a member of the High Court, judge of the High Court, 1 member who is or still a member or still a judge, session judge of the state judiciary, and 2 activist members, people who are knowledgeable, knowledge in this manner. So I was in the second last 2. And then but this next one, the next one they appointed, I don't know. I don't know if they are capable of anything, but I don't think they are capable of anything. Not even writing a petition to become a member of the commission.
Means the commission which was formed after your tenure.
Yeah. Then the image of the commission took a nosedive. Then 1 commission member almost got into a fight with the MLAs because he was abusing the chief minister in public. Another member went to Delhi, held a press conference against the chief minister. So the government got scared, and because having appointed them, they cannot be removed. It can only be removed by the President of India after a charge has been levied against a member of the High Court. And that also has to have bearing on moral turpitude and has to be investigated by a team of the Supreme Court of Judges of India. And the finding of the team of Supreme Court Judges of India is to be placed before the President of India, who may or may not act on the recommendation. Okay, so that is how you are protected. Okay,
means they cannot just dissolve it.
They cannot just dissolve it. Okay, so they had to wait for. They waited for another 5 years, 10 years. Now this 2016, 6 years have passed. There is no Human Rights Commission in the state.
Really?
Yeah.
Manipur has no Human Rights Commission.
No.
So what is Tamo Bablu's team?
Bablu's team, they are activists.
Oh.
They compile complaints, grievances, violation of rights by security forces or other agencies, and then they petition to people like us in the commission, or they bring it.
So it is not that strong, or
it's an NGO actually.
It's different.
They are NGOs. They are non-governmental organization.
So what happens now? Like, how do we get that?
You write people still come to me some 13 years after I finished my tenure with the commission. They still come to me with complaints of human rights violation.
So now those people
I type out and I send it to the National Human Rights Commission. Just put
but that is out of voluntary, right?
Yeah, that's out of voluntary.
But right now, since we don't have the commission in Manipur, that means it is like a lot of people who had the access to file their grievances, and that is not there anymore.
That's
now.
Not there anymore. Okay. Now during that tenure, I went to, in 2000, I went to South Africa and Uganda to take part in the 13th World AIDS Conference meeting, Congress, and I got exposure to Africa. And then When I went to Kampala in Uganda, it reminded me so much like home. The turning was like a Singjamai Gola,
Oh, okay.
Everybody is looking and not bothered whether you. No. The attitude of the people.
I see.
Looking at the car and not moving out, not giving him way. It's a Sala, you drive a car, it doesn't mean that I have to move out for you. So you wait till I get across it. So that kind of attitude was there. So it's just very much like home. And then I went to South Africa, then I went to Uganda.
So that is cross-studying different human rights and how people are staying and what kind of issues each country.
Then 2003, the tenure got over. My term was not extended. Anyway, I had to wait till 2005 for my term to get extended because that was when the next commission was formed. And then 2000, then I was unemployed for 2-3 years. 2006, I was made a director of the Jawaharlal Nehru Manipur Dance Academy, which functions under the Sangeetam Academy of New Delhi, which is a national institution. So 2 years I was administrating dance academy, and I kind of streamline it into a form where you can have a rhythm of things going on. And I got land for the academy. Again, since I was doing too well, they didn't want me back. So my tenure got over. 2002, it got over. Then 2000.
So can you tell a little bit about the land? Because yesterday when you spoke, I was very.
Well, the land, adjacent to the dance academy complex, there was a high school called Khoyathong Night High School, and the high school became defunct.
Okay.
And was being used as an office of the Education Directorate. So, Education Directorate can have any office anywhere there, no space. So we told the government, move these guys out, give this land to us.
So that land you had procured it for the dance academy during your tenure.
Yeah.
And now, like, it's been extended.
Now we have an additional acre of land in the heart of Imphal. And even if you have your money, you can't buy land here now.
And that's a great infrastructure specifically for Jawaharlal Nehru Dance Academy.
And then during that tenure, I went to Spain, Belgium, and France. I took part in the International Festival in Belgium. The closing ceremony was done by Apung players. Then in 2013, I think, I went back to Calcutta, walked into my old statesman office, and I told the news editor that, I said, I want to be back. He said, are you joking? He said, no, I'm not joking. I don't joke on these things. I said, all right, welcome back. Then I rejoined the statesman as a special representative. And then again, this is what happened. Then I came back to my old reporting days back habit.
Okay. The 1,000 words every day.
Yeah. Plus the insight, plus the edge you walk on.
Right.
Plus the threat you can give.
Right.
Plus the shock you can absorb. All that came back.
It's a very different dynamic.
It's a very different dynamic. It came back. I remember I wrote an article on the Regional Institute of Medical Sciences. And I wrote a 1,400 words article in which 40 words were described to say that the wife of the director has asked the president of the Manipur State BJP unit to return the rupees 1 crore which they had taken to forestall his removal as director and to block any CBI inquiry against him thereafter. That's all that it was. 40 words that was out of the 1,400. Then the state BJP chief went hala gula. Instead of calling a press conference saying I deny any of this thing, he went to the press saying that he got 50 years of public service and he will sue me with 50 crores. So I went to Calcutta. I said, let him go ahead. I tell him to go ahead, sue you. We have 100 odd such cases like this against us, no problem. Mamata Banerjee files one case every week against us. There's no harm in that. So I came back, I held a press conference and I said, we are ready to accept Chauber's challenge. Okay? He then filed a case against me, defamation suit for 50 crores. I don't know how many $1 million, about $10 million approximately. Yeah, about $10 million. I'm $10 million worth, okay. Then I went left, right, center.
But did he file it?
He filed
Oh,
it.
he filed. I thought he just said that.
You know,
was going to
he
file.
just said that. Then,
Okay.
having said that, I have to give a reply. So we are ready to accept your challenge. Then thereafter, I hit out left, right, center. I hit out all his lieutenants, and then gave them such harrowing time. And all my clippings goes to the Ministry of Home Affairs and the Prime Minister's office, which is a BJP government there. So they were subsequently removed from the post they were holding there because of my write-ups.
Okay.
But the
So that
case
had
is still going
implication
on.
and effects.
Then
so
also
the case is still going on.
We're still going on, and part of it I was invited by the CORCOM, which is the conglomeration of the 6 underground groups operating in Manipur. They are based in Burma, so I went to Burma. Held a morning breakfast meeting with them over this BJP issue. Okay.
Okay.
Right. So I'm back to normal.
So you are in the reporting world, digging all the stuff which is not reported and telling the people.
So I'm back to my normal sense. Okay, that's what the thing is all about. Okay.